Hello and welcome to Real Estate and the Adventures of Parenthood. And today I have Rudy back.
And it's great to be back. Thanks for having me. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you, Rudy, for coming back. So on today's topic, I want to talk about blended families and how to get along. As a real estate agent, I've been dealing with a lot of clients that have gone through divorces, and I've been actually coaching people outside real estate on going through the divorce process. Is it something that you should do right now? Is it something that you shouldn't do? Is it something you should consider? I mean, what are the aspects of going through a divorce? Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Are you staying there because of the kids? Mm-hmm. Are you happy, and are you prioritizing yourself as any other person in that relationship?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many variables. It took me, I don't know if I mentioned this in our last episode, but it took me about 3 years to actually make the decision. It was on my mind. Yes, I need to do it, but to actually arrive to, yes, I'm going to, was 3 years and 6 months of therapy just to make sure I was doing everything the right way. And everyone has different reasons, right? Some are abusive, some are just lonely. Everyone has their own reasons on why they want to do it, but as long as they're doing it for themselves and not leaving for somebody else. And, of course, managing the money and thinking about all those other things. There's so many things you need to think about before actually jumping out into the world, because things, as we both know, are pretty expensive out there. So going from a dual income to one can be a really tough situation to be in for a little while.
And that is, divorce is not an easy process, and especially when you have kids involved and, mm-hmm. How do I do this? And even when there's no kids involved, there's, assets involved. Right. And then what are you actually doing in that? Are you doing it for the kids? Are you not doing it for the kids? Are you doing it because you're being selfish, or you're doing it because you have lost yourself during the whole relationship? But how do you recuperate yourself during this whole process?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I said, that alone can take some time. That's why I always advise people, like, when they do get divorced, if they do, be alone for a while. Take some time to kind of recenter yourself and think about where you're at and what you want in this next chapter in your life. Don't be too quick to pull the trigger, as they say, and to jump into another relationship and like, whoa, I only was in this relationship because I was lonely. No, take the time, be alone for a while. That's a good thing.
And it's okay to discover yourself. It's okay. And what I don't understand, because I've been single for 3 years. Separated, like officially divorced. Over 2 years, separated from my husband, 5 years. For my ex-husband, not husband, ex-husband. Uh-huh. And for me, it's taken time. It's not bad to be single, but I get to do everything that I want, and I get to know myself more. I get to heal through the process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think a benefit for you that others may not have is like you are financially sound. You have a number of businesses. You're doing great for yourself. And I remember like some friends of mine who were stay-at-home moms. Which everybody, if you want to do that, hey, that's fine. If you want to be at home with the kids, I totally respect that. But the or the long-term effects of that is like, let's say 10 years go by and you've been at home 10 years and you find out your husband is cheating on you and now he wants a divorce. And now where do you go? What job do you have? How do you survive alone? What do you do? So there's a lot of people out there that are in a tough situation to be in. For me, myself, I had to work 3 jobs for a while just to kind of make ends meet. But, I made it through and I'm better now. So it was a little struggle at the very beginning, but that's, like I said, every situation is different for everybody depending on what's going on.
So for me, actually, believe it or not, I was a stay-at-home mom for 3 years.
Well, check you out. You see? There you go.
Yeah. So I was a stay-at-home mom. I got laid off back in December 2015. Uh-huh. And I have my master's degree. I was a director of sales and marketing for 7 hotels in North Dakota. And I got laid off on my 3rd trimester of pregnancy. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh my God. And I had unemployment, but unemployment's not enough. I think it was like $500 a month or something. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? I don't know what we're going to do. And I applied over 300 jobs, including I'm like, who's going to hire me pregnant? What am I going to do? It's just like, it was such a difficult situation and I couldn't get a job. We're Minot, North Dakota. And for me, it was difficult. I applied everywhere. I applied anywhere in the United States, nobody would hire me. They would say that I was overqualified, that I had too much experience, that I was underqualified, even having a master's degree. And for me, it was so difficult. So when I had my little one, my Julian, he's my little one, I was selling my breast milk. I was pumping between 2,000 and 2,500 ounces of breast milk a month.
Wow.
And I was like, what do I do to make ends meet? And with my master's degree, it doesn't matter what education you have. You always, if you wanna go ahead or, just overcome obstacles, you do anything and everything. So I started with like selling Perfectly Posh back then. I went to, then I started to get a new degree, for a pastry chef degree. And for me, it was like, okay, I'm going to put my bakery. I finished that, but when I went through the internship, which they call it an externship, here in Georgia, I was like, I'm not doing this. This is like 14 to 16 hours a day. And my brother kept on pushing me. He's like, Cindy, why don't you just go ahead and do real estate? I'm like, I'm not doing real estate. That's 100% commission. You crazy? And I'm like, no, that's scary. I don't want to do that. I want something secure. And I went ahead and I actually started, I did my real estate course. I did my real estate course in 2017. In 2018, I passed my real estate course. My real estate test. And this is like when my ex-husband was told that he was going to go to South Korea. And he's like, so what are you going to do now? I'm like, okay, I guess I will go ahead and study for my real estate test and do real estate in Georgia.
Right.
So I remember after I passed my test in July 6, 2018, he calls me. He's like, so now in South Korea, what are you going to do? Do you want to stay in Minot, North Dakota, or do you want to go to Georgia? I'm like, I am going to Georgia. I am not staying here in this winters or anything. And I was in a new career. I had no idea what the heck was I getting myself into. I knew I had experience in sales. My first year in real estate, I made like $32,000. And I'm like, okay, this is a good thing. But still, we were living paycheck to paycheck. And it was difficult because it was like, okay, so I need to I was still depending on him because, we were still married. I didn't know we were going to go through a divorce. And I'm like, what do I do now? And what I did was I was working late. I was working till 10, 11 o'clock at times, taking those listing appointments, taking those buyer's appointments. But I didn't know what the future was going to hold for me. So I went ahead and I just started growing and growing and growing, but it was getting myself out there. Like before, I was so afraid of doing social media. I'm like, I don't want to put myself out there. I don't want to do videos. I'm like, if you would have told me like 5 years ago, I would have been like having like over 28,000 followers on TikTok and, all these followings on social media and all that. I'm like, nah, you're crazy. I would never put myself, but you gotta get yourself out of your comfort zone in order to succeed. Right. And after so this is my second marriage. After my second divorce, my first divorce, I was working 2 jobs because I was left in so much debt in order to actually overcome all those obstacles. So yes, now because I only have one baby daddy and that's my second marriage and my second divorce. So on that case, I was hustling. I was afraid because I had to start from scratch completely. I was left, he did buy a house. He did buy a house. He helped me with the bills and all that, but it was starting from scratch because I was starting a new career, new business, but I didn't want to be in that relationship anymore. I wanted to accomplish all the goals that I wanted to.
And you did. That's a fantastic story. And so it can be done. Like I said, it can be done. It took a lot of hard work, but here you are. So, and there's those who feel they can't do that. They feel they can't. They don't have enough faith in themselves, or they don't have that drive, or don't want to work 12, 14 hours a day and not see their kids. So it's like there's a lot of feelings and personal obstacles somebody can put ahead of themselves before even making that decision, or hide. Some people tend to hide behind their kids. Like, I'm going to just stay in this place, get the hell with my happiness because I know I can't survive on my own, and I'll just stay here, which is heartbreaking at times because a lot of people, like, I'm sure you didn't know what you were capable of when that whole journey started. Neither did I. But people need to understand that they're stronger than they think. when when times are hard, you'd be surprised how much extra energy you got inside, or like how much you can take, and you're stronger than you think is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, yes. And as me coming out as a stay-at-home mom, I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, I was trying to do anything and everything to get out of that hole. And I was like scared because I'm like, oh my gosh, now my kids are going to go to childcare. I don't know these people. I'm in a new place. I'm like, okay. So I found a childcare that actually had, work hours till they took care of your kids till 8 p.m., which was
at
like
night. Whoa.
at
Okay.
night. And I'm like, and it was not the price was not bad at all, because I mean, childcare is expensive too. It's like, I had a 1.5-year-old, and they charge you more when they're younger. They charge you more. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? And I mean, that was a blessing, because I was like, okay, I trust that lady. I can. And then I had my friend from high school, Nikki. I'm like, Nikki, she's like, look, I lost my job. I need a place. I'm like, I have the perfect place. And that was like not even 10 minutes from her house. So she was working at a daycare, and I'm like, this is perfect. And she was seeing my kids every single day. So that also made it work too. So everything fall in place. And yes, I know sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes you think that it is better just to stay where you're at, but it's not. And I've had a lot of moms reach out to me in toxic relationships, and they're like, what can I do to overcome these obstacles? How did you get started? Because I want to remove myself from this toxic relationship or this unhappy relationship.
So what do you tell them?
I tell them, hey, you know what? It's first of all, you need to understand, what do you want? You need to write down everything you want, what is making you unhappy, and what would make you happy. Because it's not like, hey, I'm going to the courthouse and give me one divorce, please. No, you can't do that. No, it's not, because I mean, it gets more complicated, especially if you've been married for a long time, especially if you have different like circumstances, like, if there's a lot of money involved, if there's been wealth involved,
like properties, assets, things. Yeah, definitely.
Yes. And then especially if you're looking for alimony, if you're looking for child support, I mean, there's so many other things. It's just like, what do you really want? How do you see yourself in the next 6 to 12 months, 3 to 5 years? Do you want to get remarried? And yes, do not jump into a relationship just like that. Study yourself, work on yourself, discover the new you, because once you go through a divorce, it's just like, who are you? Because sometimes we get left, we disappear in a relationship, and that is not healthy at all.
Yeah, I agree. And like I've said this many times on my podcast as well, like I don't know who the hell I was getting married at 21 and then 39. Here I am. I'm like, I've always been a dad or a husband. I always put my kids and the wife's interest first. So what did I like to do? And that was a terrifying but fun journey. And looking back in hindsight, those were the fun days. Like rediscovering yourself and what you like to do and who you want to have around and places you want to go. Like I had no idea what the cool places were in the city, but you just kind of discovered that on your own while I wasn't working 3 jobs and hustling. So it's for those who are listening and you're in that place. I know it's terrifying, but it's all worth it. It's all worth it, especially when you have an optimistic viewpoint on life and a positive outlook. It's a wonderful journey.
And then not feeling guilty about those things that you have, like, hey, you know what, I feel like I can't do this because she's gonna tackle me, or she's gonna be upset with me. And then having that feeling about like, nobody's gonna get upset with me because I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Is that like, and then you have that kind of like, you still have that like, wait, is he gonna say something? Or am I able to do that?
Right.
Wait, I'm not hearing a no and I can do it? Let's do it. Let's go for it. I mean, that's freedom. I mean, okay, I'm not encouraging you guys to do everything and anything you guys want. Be also safe and cautious with what you're doing. Like jump off a plane. That's fine. That's fine, you know. But
I will never do that, by the way. I know you have, but I will never do that. I'm fine with
I like it. I mean, I like it. I was like, well, the weather's looking really nice today. I can either go fly or I can jump off a plane. And I'm like, well, I flew yesterday and I was trying to get a hold of one of my friends. I'm like, hey, you know what? Let's go jump up and let's go skydive. But he was working. I'm like, I guess I'll go to the gym and run some errands. But
I think I would go to the gym versus jump out of a plane any day. Hey, but it's like, I know I may regret that later in life that I didn't do it, but I just know my luck. Something would happen. I'd have a heart attack on the way down, or the ripcord would not work. I'm just going to play it cool down here.
Okay, there's always a second parachute, by the way. And keep in mind, you got to change your mindset. You cannot be thinking about that. Anyways, did you up your life insurance, by the way?
Right. Yes.
So,
Right.
but now that we're talking about divorce, is like, let's talk about when you get remarried. And we're talking about like, okay, so what happens when you get remarried? How many divorces has this person had? How many kids do they have? And it's just like, so how do we know when it's the right person, or how do you know what you're getting yourself into when the person that has kids?
Yeah, that's a great question, because you want to not replicate the same mistakes you made earlier on in life, or, maybe a lot of us got caught up with emotions and like, this is the one, we're just totally in love and get married really fast. And we all know how those most of the time work out. So, I would ask yourself to just not try to replicate those mistakes, but get to know them. And I think one huge indicator, in my opinion, was I'm engaged now, right? My girlfriend, she's never had kids before, so the son we have is her first. But before her, thank you so much. But before her, I did date single moms. And in a way, I preferred that. Unlike what young men are saying, all these idiotic, stereotypes and phrases, I preferred a single mom's life, because we all know how that life is. Monday through Friday, there's no dating. Monday through Friday, you're busy with the kids and schoolwork and food and dinners and things like that. That's the way I was. I only went out on weekends, and my Monday through Friday was dedicated to my kids, and that's how the life was for most single mothers. But the red flags that I learned in my dating life was, if there was a horrible relationship between her and her ex-husband, where she was just constantly just complaining about he's not helping, he was supposed to pick her up and he didn't, that was a red flag, in my opinion, because that's always going to linger and always be there. And in some cases, we had a great relationship, and she would tell me that, hey, this guy is a pain in the butt. I can never count on him. But then she would dump me to go back to him. So there was a lot of like weird flags there. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, observe who they are. Like, if you're going to date somebody, they got kids and they have a co-parent, and they have a great relationship, there's no drama, and the kids love being at their dad's house or mom's house, and the kids are all well behaved, and they're actually co-parenting, that's a wonderful green flag for you to look at. Like, okay, so they have their shit together. They're doing well for themselves. I know my space is in a healthy area, or the best it can be. I'm not going to go into that space and try to ruin that, so to speak. You want to keep the harmony and everything in balance, and also be mature enough to understand that they're parents. They're not still in love with each other. He is not flirting with her. Like some other guys and some women, some women have got mad at me for texting my ex-wife. Like, we're talking about my daughter's project, If jealousy cannot be in place or in the air when you're co-parenting or starting a blended family, because that's just going to eventually just grow into something and just explode and ruin everybody's relationship, or maybe cause divorces. So you have to be totally secure with yourself.
And that there is like, so when I met my ex-husband, it was like when I was 26 years old. Yeah, 26 years old. And I had no idea what this was. I had no idea what co-parenting was. Mm-hmm. I had no idea what, having stepkids was. I mean, granted that they were 2 and 4, and she lived in Kentucky. He lived in North Dakota with me. And well, we lived in separate states.
Separate areas. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And, I was like, I did not understand. And there was like the insecurities that I had,
oh, you had them. Okay.
I had the insecurities, and okay. Her calling, like one time, and I will never forget about this. It's just like she called over 50 times in 1 hour.
That's a little too much.
And it was like the yelling, the fighting, and honestly, it was crazy. It was not a healthy situation. Mm-hmm. And I think about this, it's just like, I really wanted to have kids. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was like, I know he can have kids. He had a vasectomy back then, but he actually got a reversal, and we had kids. And
I'm sorry. I hear those are hard to reverse because I have mine scheduled, not a reverse, but my vasectomy scheduled for later this month. But I read the procedures and the percentages of it being successful if you change your mind. So for a reversal one, it's expensive, and two, if it takes, that's a rarity. So I guess good for him that it actually took. I'm just saying because I found out about that recently.
So when it goes through a reversal, so we got a doctor here in Gainesville, and he's really, really good. Mm-hmm. So from Minot, North Dakota, we went here, and it took it actually not even 6 months, because he got the reversal, I think it was like November, October 2012. Mm-hmm. And I had my first miscarriage in December. And then, it was pretty quickly though.
Wow.
So his sperm count went pretty up, but he had to stop drinking energy drinks, and he was very, very careful, which I really admire from him. But in this case, he did not have a good relationship with his ex-wife. Mm-hmm. He didn't have a relationship with his kids. It was like the constant fightings, the constant screamings, the constant, not having a good relationship with her was a total red flag. And I didn't see that. I was blinded by love and in love and him, that I didn't see those red flags. Him not having a good relationship with his family because they're all distant. They don't talk to each other or anything. And I'm Latina, so as a Latina, I have constant communication with my family. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how does that work? I mean, why don't you talk to your family? And plus, it was completely a different culture too. So, there were so many things, so many differences, and it was most likely that I was his fourth marriage.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
how many years? And how old is he? Was this 4 marriages in 10 years, or? He
was 40. He's now 44. But there's a pattern here. He cheated on every single spouse.
Yeah.
So the first one, he cheated with with her mom. Then the second one, he cheated, it's a pattern. Mm-hmm. And it's actually something that run away. And it's just like, okay, so what do I know now? How do I know that this is a person that I can count on, or a person that I can actually have a good relationship? And now I'm like, after 5 years, he's actually back in my kid's life, meaning that he's military, but he moved back to the States. So supposedly he's supposed to move completely back back to Georgia full time in July or August. So we're pushing for that. But I'm having a relationship with his kids. So I still have a relationship with his kids regardless of me being the fourth ex-wife. But I've maintained that constant communication with them. And now after maintaining that constant communication and getting along with his family, because that's another thing too. It was like there was a lot of not getting along, but now we started getting along. So last weekend we actually had our first family trip with my ex-in-laws to see his kids and his ex-wife. So we completely did that. Mm-hmm. But this is after 10 years. If I would have wanted to do this the first year, that would have probably I would not probably be here. And this is something that she and I were talking about, because as a blended family, you have to get along. You got to put your differences aside from your grudges, your insecurities, your jealousies, your everything. Mm-hmm. You have to put that aside and think about the kids. Yes. Are they really important or not? Am I able to be, have a good relationship with this person aside from the marriage, aside from being his ex now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And most people, I hate to say it, but most people can't. There's always, we see it all over social media, and we see it, I have a lot of people reaching out to me, and I've met with a few coaches who deal with high conflict divorces, and these men and women are just making their spouse's life a living hell. like prolonging the divorce proceedings or, making threats, all types of things. So it's unfortunate that there's many people out there who cannot be an adult about the situation and put their feelings aside and, put their kids above them and be the role model and leader that they need to be. It's very unfortunate. And again, just like myself, there's another coach, that I met with last year. Her name was Victoria, and she has a wonderful co-parenting relationship, and she was engaged to similar, like you had said, like you meet somebody after the divorce, you're in love. Oh my God, this is the one I've always wanted. But he could not handle being in the space of, she's got an ex-husband around. She said one of the moments where he says, I don't feel part of this family was when the ex-husband dropped off the kids and they're talking about the kids' health, medicines, because one of them is a special needs child. And they're talking about meds and things like that. And after he left, he was just kind of quiet. And she's like, what? And after a few hours, he goes, look, I look at you guys and I see a family. And I have nothing to do with that. And I see that. And I feel so separate from what you guys have that I can't deal with this. I can't. And he left her. And their engagement was broken off. So the way he described it, as an older man, I can't see that. But as a younger man, 20s, maybe early 30s, who doesn't have a family, who doesn't have kids, who's never been married, there's a lot of insecurities that I can see them having. And it takes a lot to actually overcome those and say, you know what, that is their past. That is, something that I don't have yet with her. Hopefully I will later in life. But to see something that somebody has built for many years, maybe known somebody for 10 years and they have a family, and you're seeing it from an outside observer, I can see how that can still be a shock to people, in those situations.
And it's just like, you're right about that. And a lot of people who date single dads or single moms, and they have a healthy relationship with their ex-partner.
Right.
It's just like, they need to understand, like, look, okay, for instance, my ex-husband came home and my house, by the way, my house. This is not his house, my house. And in order for us to not disrupt the kids' like routine or anything, because my kids have not had their dad in their life for, let's say, for instance, for 5 years. And the only thing stable that I've had for them has been me, the routine and everything else. And yes, he brought his dog, which his dog is the one that I've been checking on right now, and she's with me. But I told him, you know what? You don't have to, but you can stay at my house. I have a guest bedroom downstairs. I have a kid's guest bedroom. So you're welcome to stay. And he's staying at my house. We're cooking dinner. He's right now with his parents, but it's just like, if I were with someone, would they be able to understand that there's nothing sexual there? There's nothing. Right. It's just like good friends hanging out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And believe it or not, there's a funny story. Before I met my current fiance, there was a man that my ex-wife was dating, and they were doing great. Like, as a matter of fact, it was one of the first feelings I had where I was like kind of angry was when the ex-wife said, hey, so-and-so wants to take the kids to the beach. And I remember, why am I angry about this? Oh, some other man's taking my kids to the beach and not me. So this is the first time I encountered that feeling. And it was around my son's birthday. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, well, do what's best with the kids. I calm down and realize what I'm feeling is natural, but I'm not going to let that ruin my son's birthday. I told my son that I will celebrate something with him when he gets back. So I remember being angry about that. And I thought this guy was a good guy. But ultimately, he didn't like that she and I had such a healthy camaraderie together. And he started getting like jealous and started getting very like verbally abusive. And she finally dumped him. And she dumped him because she and I had an agreement. Like, we had this perfect harmony. We're not going to let anybody, man or woman, come and just jeopardize that. And I dumped many women because they couldn't handle that either. And he got so jealous, he was stalking her, leaving notes on her door and her windows and her car window, like in the middle of the night. And my kids are there. I'm like, F that. No. The kids are staying with me, so you get that situated, file police reports, do whatever. But she didn't feel safe, so I'm like, ugh. You can stay at my place for a couple of weeks if you have to.
Oh, gosh.
And she did. She slept in my daughter's room, and it was kind of funny. And I'm like, it was kind of weird being in that same space. But again, there's nothing sexual. It's just she's the ex-wife who happened to just be going through this horrible situation. So she was in my daughter's room for 2 weeks, and I'm like, you better chip in on the groceries, girl. Help out.
Go ahead.
So we had not a great time, but it was a 2-week period where she actually had to live with me until that whole situation kind of cooled off. Isn't that funny?
So be like, so does that mean I get a reduction this month on my child support? How does that work?
Yeah, that's too funny. Yeah, but we get along that way. Like, we just get along. Like, for example, like my fiance, we were here on a Saturday, and her husband showed up to drop off my daughter, and I'm like, where's your truck? He's, we took an Uber. And I'm like, why? Oh, well, the truck's broken or whatever. We're going to go to this bar. And you're going to take an Uber to a bar? That's so weird. And my fiance says, I'll take y'all. So she took my ex-wife and her husband to a bar like a few miles up the road and dropped them off. So we all help each other. We all get along great because we all know we respect each other. There's nothing there. And it's all about the kids. And everyone's happy in their situation. So that's how we work.
And that's what I love. And yes, you know what? It took me 10 years to actually understand that. And
let me ask you, if you don't mind me interrupting, was it you said that you had some insecurities with this previous relationships. Am I understanding that correctly? Or was the insecurities on his part for the co-blending family piece?
For me, it was like the insecurities on my part because first of all, I was his fourth wife, at that time.
Okay.
Fourth wife. He had cheated on her. And she was asking him back. But then again,
that's different though. That's kind of different though, because she's asking him back while you're married to him. So I think that's natural for you to feel that way because that's disrespectful to you, first off. And for an ex-wife to be asking your husband back while you're married to him, I would be just like you in that sense.
And there's so many things, and I'm like, okay, so do you want her? Do you not? Because I even told him, look, we don't have to be together. And he's like, no, I want to be with you. And we did get married. But it was like, there's so many things that I didn't understand because I'm like, do you want to be with her? Because I couldn't understand, because of how toxic their relationship was. Mm-hmm. For me was like, I did not understand that. It was. But
the fact that you had to ask him, do you want her, says enough of that he didn't reinforce enough to you that, honey, I love you. She's crazy. This is not even a thought in my mind that I'm entertaining. He didn't make you feel comfortable enough.
I think he did say that, but I cannot remember that. I can't. Okay. We're talking about
this is over
10 years, 12. Oh my gosh, 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was for me. It was like, okay, so do you want her? Do you not? And be like, and it was my first relationship with someone with kids because I had never dated anybody. I was so naive. I was in a bubble, and especially with my family telling me, oh, you're crazy. You're dating someone that has kids, and me not having kids and me wanting kids. So that was a whole different situation too, because I was like, okay, so we're going to have kids. He told me that we would have kids. I didn't want to have kids with my first ex-husband. Oh no, that's a total different story. But with him, I went through I had been going through infertility since I was 16. Mm-hmm. And my whole thing of I want to have kids, and then having a miscarriage, it was not easy. And then having another miscarriage. And I think it also had to do with, she was able to have kids and I was not able to have kids. Cause
was there jealousy in that or just, insecurity? I get what you're saying. Yeah.
I think insecurity just because, me going through infertility issues and she being able to get pregnant fast. And so what he told me was that it was an oops, that she got pregnant.
An oops? Okay.
Yeah. So an oops. So because he was about to go to get deployed and she came out pregnant and then that's when they got married.
Oh, okay.
So, and for me not being able to get pregnant, me going through all this stuff, I think that also added to the whole situation because struggling through infertility is something that it is very hard. It's not easy at all. And a lot of people don't understand, especially for females, that all these men out there nowadays, they say, hey, you know what? I'm going through, single mom. Okay. Women, we deal with infertility issues. We deal with, periods. We deal with things that men don't think about, that are very uneducated about. And we have a biological clock too. Be like, clock is ticking. So, and it's just like the whole thing of like, oh, you know what? You're a single mom. I can't deal with you because you have kids. Okay. Did you even ask me my history here? What happened here, really?
Yeah.
So.
And I kind of faced that from a male perspective at 39 because I remember, again, I hadn't dated in years, right? So here I am dating, and I saw all these young men kind of like insulting single mothers and the labels they were putting them. And I didn't agree with that because I knew a lot of women who were divorced just like me around my age, including my ex-wife. She technically is a single mom. We're co-parenting, but she's technically a single mom, and she's not, a slut and all these other things these young men are kind of saying. There's women out there who are, but try to make a marriage work. They were married 10, 15 years, maybe more. I don't know, trying to make things work. And they were just married to a shithole husband, and they just finally had enough and left. That doesn't make them anything that you're labeling them as. They just had enough. So I face that myself. And that's why I get so defensive when I see all these young men insulting them the way they are. And my conversations with them, they say there's two types, and I don't understand that, but they say there's two types. There's a type that's in their late 30s who has kids, but, was married for X amount of years and chose to leave, right? And there's the ones that are like 24 and under who have 4 kids from 4 different guys and that were reckless and just kind of getting pregnant left and right. I'm like, okay, I guess I can understand what you're saying on that piece, but again, it's funny how the shame is always drawn to the woman, but no one's calling out these deadbeat jerks who are impregnating these women and just leaving them there and not owning up and being dads. So it is a biased, one-sided type of discussion out there.
My thing is, it's just like we always talk about the single moms, but they never talk about men. How many kids, how many baby mamas do you have? Oh, wait, you got 10?
Yeah.
Wow. And then those are the ones that you can't even count. I mean, because it's just like, so why are we always shaming the moms and why don't we shame the dads? Or you know what? At the end of the day, it's nobody's business. So why are we doing this? I mean,
it's a lot of, from what I've seen, again, it's a lot of men who don't have kids. And I think there's a resentment coming from their space because you picked them, not me. So there's this animosity, and I can see like that resentment in their face, and they don't have kids themselves. I think any parent who has a daughter, especially men who have a daughter, would not be saying those types of things. That's just what I get. They have no experience. They've never been married. They've never had a successful dating life, so there's a lot of resentment. So, okay, I'm going to start insulting you and blaming you and calling you out because, y'all never looked at me. So, again, there's a lot of hate in the men's space. Not a lot. The good, rounded men that are out there, like myself, that we don't speak to that or we don't think that way, but we see it. And I always see it as from the men who've never really had a successful dating life or have no kids or have not been married.
Or they're very immature and
they're idiots.
Ignorant. Yeah, they're idiots. And all they think about is just like, okay, so who's the next best thing? Or let me just go with a one night stand and forget about that. Yeah. They don't, and then that's also, they don't appreciate and value women.
They don't. And it's tough. And that's why I'm so adamant when I'm coaching and trying to tell young men how to think a certain way. But look at who their role models are. You have Andrew's Haight and all these other people and all these hookup channels. And all these hookup channels are highlighting, the toxic women that are out there. Again, there's toxic men and toxic women. I totally understand that. But when you're consistently showcasing this one side and one version of women that they think that's all that's out there, it's very impressionable. And I think that's a whole other conversation in and of itself. But it is a shame that a lot of it is out there like that. I truthfully agree with you.
I do need to ask you something. What is a hookup channel?
Well, like, for example, like there's a lot of like, I don't want to say fresh and fit, but there's a lot of like, this is how to hook up with women advice channels. A lot of young men are telling you how to play the game, what to wear, how to speak. I don't want to call them out and give them any type of like advertising. I'll send you some links after the fact because you go to their YouTube channel and it's like them making out with a bunch of women, how to score with hot women, how to get tens. There's all these channels. These guys are making, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year coaching young men how to get these tens, as they say. And it's stupid. As a grown man, I see this and I laugh. I'm like, okay, I get that, but no one ever talks about, okay, you hook up, but what's the consequence of that? There's usually an STD that you can get, and you know what? Maybe you can get her pregnant. No one ever talks about the consequences of hooking up. What if you get her pregnant? You going to be a man and take care of that kid? What are you going to do? Now you're a father. What's up? No one ever talks about that. It's always about getting laid.
And that's the thing. Okay, so now we have a different subject here. Can someone explain to me why do people need to get laid? Okay, I understand. Sex is amazing. Sex is amazing.
Of course.
I mean, not everybody knows how to have sex. Believe me, there's awful people that have sex. It's be like, what the heck? Like, seriously?
Yeah.
Anyways, but what is the whole thing about like just having so many people, like having sex with like anybody and everybody that they can have sex with? Why?
I mean, again, everybody's reasons are different, right? I mean, I've spoken to a lot of sex coaches on my channel, male and female, and some of the women just tell me they love sex. Some of them are still like, they told me they had 100 partners in college, freshman year, and they're living in polyamorous relationships where they can have multiple romantic, emotional relationships with other people while with somebody. Some people just have that need. Now, where that stems from, I don't know, but they just love sex. And there's some that I had a few friends of mine on the male side who just would do anything, put it in anything. And I'm like, really, dude, what's up with you? Like, they usually come from a place where, especially a few of them that I knew, they had nothing going on in life. They couldn't have a job. They failed at everything. The only good thing they were good at was selling themselves and hooking up. So there was like this emptiness in their life that they never had, and they would fill it with just basically hooking up with people. They saw that as a win or being an alpha. But, most of these guys never had a job or a career. They're just like playing a role out there, and that's all they had because they had nothing else going on in life.
But you know what? Thinking about this, like I've never been a person of having like multiple partners or sleeping around or anything. Right. And I think about it, it's like they don't value themselves. They don't love themselves. Mm-hmm. They're missing so many things in their life that's what they cause it. Because I mean, I would not want to get an STD. I mean, there's so many, there's so many types of STDs. It's like, yes. But they don't think about that. They don't think about like, what if she gets pregnant? What about, I mean, are you planning to, do you see yourself, if you have sex with this person, do you see yourself having a kid with this person?
Right. They're not thinking that far ahead. Most guys aren't. Most people aren't. They're just out there looking to have fun. They're just looking to conquer whoever they're dating and then move on from that. So, and they should. It's irresponsible.
It's a 5-second thing. I mean, so you're going to change your whole life. Well, I mean, are we talking about premature ejaculation here? Oh, God.
Yeah, like 5 seconds. Wow. Okay.
Okay, probably like a 5-minute thing. Okay, depends. Right. Is that counting them taking off their clothes or not taking off their clothes? All right. But that's the thing. It's just like you're changing your life for just a moment of excitement or pleasure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but again, we're like I don't want to say older because I don't consider myself old, right? But we're like. We have a different perspective because we kind of been there and done that. But as far as younger, I can say, like, for example, if I was younger, not married, and the amount of testosterone young men have, and just the amount of influence and just things that are so accessible, like pornography, websites, things like that. And most women, like, if she's pretty on social media, more than likely, not all the time, but she may have an OnlyFans. So, if I pay her $4, I can see her naked and do things. So the access to that type of like visual stimuli. If I was a young man, I would be an idiot. I would be out of control because, again, you're just in a different realm at that age. Again, I'm not condoning any reckless behavior, but again, it's just there's too much out there for young men to totally just be involved in and just be addicted to and just kind of live that life. And before you know it, they've never had any real experience with women. It's all been over your phone. And then they have this objective type of viewpoint on it, which is totally wrong. And it's only going to hurt them in the long run. So there's a lot of things that a young man can just be just totally consumed with that can damage him, especially if he finds this material at a young age, like 15 or 16. My God.
Yeah, especially social media. Social media has changed everything. I mean, and I feel bad for the people for the kids that are growing up. I mean, are they going to learn social skills? Are they going to know how to actually have a relationship? Are they going to even be able to, have a healthy communication or connection with that person? Yeah. Or will it all be through social media, texting?
Time will tell. But like I've said many times, my fear is that these young men are not going to know how to speak with women, or they're going to see them as like a product or an objective sexual person because that's all they've ever known. And they've never had any real relationships in real life with real people, real women. So how are these 14, 15-year-old guys going to be when they're in their late 20s? I don't know. It's going to be a mess.
That would be, and that's why there's coaching out there. They're going to have to go through coaching and be like, okay, how can I get a date? How can I talk to a woman? How can I actually have a relationship with someone or make friends?
Yeah. Who knows? It's going to be a journey for them, but they're going to have to be willing to put in the effort to do that.
And a lot of people, especially at that age, they don't want to put the effort. They don't want to learn. They don't want to do any of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Totally agree.
All right. I think that's that's a lot of information that we covered there. But going on to blended families, and I've had a lot of people reach out to me lately on how did I do it, like with my ex-husband's ex-wife, and how do I actually have a good relationship and healthy relationship with my ex-in-laws is all about communication and time. Because keep in mind, wounds do not heal overnight. It takes time to build that.
I agree. And it's unfortunate that you can be the adult and be willing to establish communication and just move on from any past hiccups, but it's ultimately the other person on the other end if they're willing to meet you halfway. And if you're stuck in that situation, like, how do you fix that? I don't know. Maybe have a mediator involved in your communications, somebody involved. In other words, you two are never alone. Maybe put grievances aside and say, hey, we're not going to talk this way in front of the kids. There's so many avenues that I would look into. I'm grateful that I'm not in that space, but to be in that space, I bet is very frustrating. And I wouldn't know what to do other than the options I just suggested.
No, and it's just like, especially with social media, you have social media, Facebook. A lot of people put their dirty laundry on Facebook, and it's just like, oh my gosh. And TikTok is becoming a big one. Like, oh my gosh. But it's just like, just hold on there. And if you're getting into a relationship with someone with kids, get to know them. And I'm not saying, hey, it's a bad thing. It's a great thing because you're actually building a family, but your family is becoming bigger. So you're not only having your soon to be husband's kids, right? Or soon to be wife's kids, but you're also acquiring their ex-husband's family or ex-wife's family, and that makes a bigger family. And you'll always have them. They're always going to be there regardless. Yeah. So why not get together and just build a relationship, a healthy relationship for the kids? I'm not saying sleeping together because that's a total different story. But if you guys are up to it, then go for it.
That's a completely different podcast.
Completely. But all right. Thank you so much, Rudy. I appreciate all your information and all your help with blended families, divorces, and men that don't understand the single parenting or single mom or single dad's life. Men and women.
Yeah. Least I can do. Thanks for having me, Cindy.
You're welcome. Thank you.